So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to SAKT class, and today we'll be discussing on tomato production. So, I most of us we know how tomato production is. Some of us really have PTSD for tomato production, especially during rainy season. We know how wonderful tomato is, and I today we have our a specialist, that has grown tomato for so long, and the in and out of tomato production. So he is here tonight to teach us, to mentor us on tomato production. So good evening, sir, Mr. Jude Nwanko. So thank you so much for honoring our call. I really appreciate you, sir. So thank you, sir. So Mr. Jude, you can move on.
Okay. So tonight, well, I don't know if I have much time for this class. May I know the time I have to go through the slides?
We only have less than an hour now because just an hour is the meet is just an hour, so we have less than an hour now. Yes, sir. And so that's it, sir.
Okay, so that less than hour is both the teaching and maybe answers or contribution. But I want to know how many minutes do I have to for the teaching?
So let's just say we have, let's just say 35 to 40 minutes, sir.
Okay, it's fine. So I'll try to see how I can summarize the slide because normally I have to even cut short the slide, but I couldn't include some things because when I overheard that the class is not even up to 1 hour for me to teach. Because normally the slide I was preparing before was like 2 hours slide, but I have to cut it short. So even this one, I have to still look for how I can summarize what is inside this. It's about 22 slides or thereabout. So I hope that will be fine. Okay, so let's go to the table of content quickly. I hope you can all hear me.
Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, so now looking at the table of content, to have the number one there, the market, seedling procurement, soil preparation, seedling hardening and transplanting, spacing and planting, irrigation, staking and trellising, integrated fertilizer and nutrient management, vegetative and productive production stage, weed control, pruning, common tomato pests and disease. Then we'll not talk about integrated pest management, scouting, and then conclusion. So without wasting much of our time, let's go to the number one on the list, market. So I know some of us might be wondering why is market coming first, or why is market the first topic on the slide. So the reason is this. Now, one thing we need to know is not just tomato production. Now, production generally, that is being a farmer. So market is a very crucial part of the whole farming journey or the production cycle. So you cannot say that a particular production cycle is successful just because you're able to achieve 200 tons, and tons of upon tons and all that. So you cannot say because you're able to achieve maximum yield or output, depending on the size of the land they are cultivating. So you cannot say that your cycle is successful just because you're able to get yield. Now, the success of a particular cycle has to do with, okay, you achieving the yield through your agronomy practices and then having the market to buy what you produce. I hope that is clear. Can we hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yeah, so now this is why market here is number one on the list, because the success of your journey, even in the agro space, depends on the market. So it means that Even after achieving 200 ton, if there is no market looking for what you produce, or you don't have any market to sell to, maybe over 50% of what you produce can go to waste. So a cycle cannot be said to be successful when there is no market to buy what you actually produce. So let's look at the slide. Now, I say before you dive into production, there is question you must answer correctly. Who am I growing for? You need to correctly answer that question. What is my target market, or which market am I serving? So it therefore means that before you even go into the production, you need to sort out your market first. You need to sort out your market first. You need to ensure that there is market looking for what you are producing, because you are not going for fun, and you are not just practicing. This time around is not even agriculture you are practicing, it's agribusiness. We have gone beyond the era of agriculture. We are now in the era of agribusiness. Like our forefathers did agriculture and they couldn't really make much out of it. So for you to properly practice agribusiness, you need to ensure that there is an already made market. There is a market ready, or a market ready for what you are about to produce. So you say your target market determines what you should produce in the first place. Do you get that? That is agriculture. I hope that is that clear.
Yes, sir.
So you say your target market determines what you should even produce in the first place. Some people just grow for fun. You are not going for fun. You are going to make profit. You are going to make money. So you see, some markets want quality, while other markets are looking for quantity. So you cannot have in your okay, the nearest market to you. Now let me use the word the nearest market to you. You cannot have the nearest market to you looking for quantity, and what you grow is quality. So it means that you may even end up begging them to buy it. And when you produce, begging people to buy, they will be the one to give you the price. They can even rubbish the price for you. So you cannot have a market looking for quantity, whereas you are growing quality.
Mr. Sean, please mute your mic.
So then you have the luxury markets looking for some classy or luxury tomato varieties like cherry, beef stick, and co. He says, so your market determines the variety you will plant or produce. Like I think when I was told that, oh, I should come and take this topic, well, I was like, the person that informed me was like, oh, you can even talk about varieties and all that. So you need to talk about market first. Market is the most important thing here. So when you have a market ready, or you have a market that, oh, you are sure that when my produce is ready, there's a market that is willing to buy or willing to pay. So that will determine what you should produce. So you say, so for this market, something is a broad topic on its own, but I just decided to cut it short. So it's having sought out your market and selected the variety you want to plant. The next thing is to consider quality seed or healthy seedlings. So having sought out your market, you are now about to set out for the production. So like I've said that a cycle cannot be said to be successful just because you're able to achieve 200 tons. No. So if you achieve 200 tons and you also have market to sell, that is when it will be considered to be successful. So the next thing again that also determines the success of that cycle is quality seed or healthy seedlings. So that will take us to the next slide. So let's look at seed and seedling procurement. Seedling procurement. So a successful production cycle begins with a quality seed or healthy seedlings, because that is where it all begins. So it therefore means that having access or being able to procure quality seed or healthy seedlings will go a long way to determine what the outcome of that particular production cycle will look like. So he said you can either get quality seed to raise your seedlings yourself, or you can as well purchase healthy seedlings from farmers who specialize in raising seedlings. So either way, you must ensure that your soil is prepared at least 2 weeks to the day you want to transplant. So while you are looking out for quality seed or healthy seedlings, you should also be working on getting your land or your soil ready, or your site, your planting site ready. So you ensure you start preparing your soil 2 weeks after sowing your seed. If you are the one raising your seed yourself, you have sown the seed, they have germinated, you're not taking care of them. So 2 weeks after sowing your seed, you can go ahead to start preparing your site, or 2 weeks before purchasing your healthy seedlings also. I hope that is clear. I hope you can still hear me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, we can hear you.
So I'm just trying to be a bit fast because the journey is still far. So soil preparation, this is another crucial aspect of your production cycle or your production. Soil preparation, very important. So the number one on the list, so the first step is to ensure that you have an ideal growing soil. So here we are looking at loamy soil. That is the most ideal. It doesn't hold too much of water, it doesn't hold water more than necessary and all that. And it also allow for air. So it's a loamy soil support your plants structurally, aerates, it aerates, that is allow air, or it encourages airflow to the root zone and drains properly. You see, it does not hold much water than required or necessary. So you can see that here our ideal soil is loamy soil. Let's look at the third item on the list. Say avoid planting tomato in a waterlogged or waterlogging area. That is the worst place you can do tomato, a waterlogged or waterlogging area. Your soil or your planting site must be free from waterlogging or excessive water. The fourth on the list say you need to carry out soil test or soil analysis to know what is contained in your soil and to determine the pH level as well. So the essence of the soil test and soil analysis is to know, okay, what nutrient is what nutrient deposit is here and to what level is it, so that you know how to go about balancing it. Okay, let's say you have more of nitrogen there, you have more of maybe you have calcium and co. So you know how to okay, if you have, let's say you have high level of calcium deposit there, you now know that you don't need to supply much calcium again in order to balance it, because too much of all these elements can become toxic to the plant. So also looking at the pH level, as you need to know whether the pH level there is the ideal for the development of your plant, because your plant requires some certain level of pH. It should be at least 5.5, shouldn't be less than 5.5. In fact, that 5.5 says should be going up and not down. So the next thing on the list there say in the case of depleted soil, you will have to regenerate the soil using organic rich fertilizer like compost, animal manure, or worm casting. So these things are things that you can use to regenerate your soil. You can use it to bring life back to the soil, enrich the soil, make the soil to be fertile again, because you don't want to plant there and watch your plant struggling. Because in some cases it's not all, even if you intend to use inorganic fertilizers and the like, you still need to like at least enrich, regenerate the soil, and the plant will appreciate you for that. So say in the case of acidic soil which is caused by low pH, you may have to raise the pH using agricultural lime or wood ash. The next thing on the list there say you need to till and loosen up the soil by making a raised bed of about 15 centimeter high to improve drainage, prevent waterlogging, and facilitate root penetration and development. Very importantly, tilling of your soil, loosening of your soil, making of ridges or beds, very importantly, so that the plant so that when you finally transplant, the plant does not get to struggle to penetrate, so that you give the roots a good landing and encourage their development as well. So you say having made ridges or raised bed, you need to also mulch for a whole lot of seasons, not limited to water retention, and to discourage water splashes from the soil to the leaves or any part of the plant, which can lead to disease development. So you need to mulch after making your ridges or raised bed. You need to mulch the ridges, cover it for a lot of reasons and also for a lot of benefits. So let's look at the next slide. On the next slide, we'll be looking at soil sterilization. So after the whole process in the previous slide, you need to now sterilize your soil. So in all these things are pointing towards your transplant. It means that you are getting ready to transplant. Remember, we say you are to start doing all these things 2 weeks to the day of transplant. So there say soil sterilization eliminates pathogens, pests, weed seed and harmful bacteria from soil using soilization and chemical method or some oxidizing agent. So let's look at some of the sterilization methods here. Talking about soilization, this is done by covering your ridges using plastic sheet or mulch for a period of like 4 to 6 weeks, and it is most effective during dry season. That is when it is most effective, during dry seasons. So to an extent, this also help to prevent a lot of things in the soil, or deal with some things in the soil there. The second one there is the oxidizing agent. This includes using some agents like hydrogen. So if you notice here, if you look at this slide, you observe that you notice that I normally begin from the biologicals and the mechanical approaches before I will now get to chemical approaches, because in most cases, or let's say normally, chemical approaches are normally supposed to be your last resort. So when you are not able to maybe have access to all these ones, or you're not able to do all this, you cannot resort to chemical. And so that's why I put agents like hydrogen peroxide as the second there. So peroxide on its own is not really that, it's eco-friendly. It's eco-friendly, just like the solarization. So peroxide, using it at the appropriate concentration to eliminate harmful pathogens in the soil. He said, but in the case of peroxide, it eliminates both harmful and unharmful organisms. Peroxide burns everything. When you use peroxide to sterilize your soil, it burns everything. So in this case, you may have to make use of some biological agents to reintroduce those harmful organisms that were destroyed by peroxide. Though peroxide can be very effective, but what it does is that it doesn't just destroy the harmful ones, it also destroys both the unharmful ones. So as a farmer, as a well-informed farmer, you need to know what to do to reintroduce the unharmful microorganisms that can help your plant to thrive. Now the last one on the list, chemical. So this is done using some chemical like copper-based fungicide on some kind chemical-based nematicide to treat the soil, though this is less eco-friendly than heat and oxidizing
Hello,
method, but it's very
Colani,
effective.
Colani.
So let's go on to the next slide. So now, on the seedling hardening and transplant, it means that you are now almost ready to transplant. So it's advisable to do this seedling hardening if, let's say, a week to transplant. Yes, a week to transplant is fine. In some cases, you can do maybe 1 week or between 10 days, a week to 10 days to transplant. You need to harden your seedlings. Why are you hardening your seed? You need to harden them so that not when they get to the permanent side, they begin to struggle. So the essence of hardening is to expose them to to what they are going to express in the in the permanent site. So you try to expose them to some harsh weather. Maybe you may have to reduce your watering, the way you water, your watering rate. Or in some cases, you may even have to reduce the way you fertilize them or fertigate them. The one it has to do with fertigation now, it means that fertilizer is involved, not just water. So you may have to like reduce your watering, just expose them to hardness, that is hardening, to hardship, so that when they get to the permanent site and meet different weather conditions there, it will not look like a new experience to them. Oh, they will like, oh, I've experienced something like this from where I'm coming from, so it will not be a big deal. So it says seedling hardening is the 7 days process of gradually acclimating young plant to harsh conditions, sunlight and temperature fluctuation, to prevent transplant shock, stunted growth or death. It involves slowly increasing outdoor exposure if they were raised indoor. If you are the type that you raise your seedlings indoor in a greenhouse, you may have to start, although if it is solary, if you are using solary, you may not have to bother too much, because the temperature there will take care of itself, will take care of the ceilings. But if you are the type that you raise your ceiling maybe under shade net or under any shade that is not solary at all, so you may have to start expose, maybe you remove the cover, expose them to that harshness, to that harsh weather. But if it's under solary, you may just have to reduce your watering. The temperature will do the rest. So reducing watering and then stopping fertilization to build sturdy stems and roots, ensuring higher survival rate. So you can see the essence of seedling hardening now, just to limit or minimize transplant shock or seedling losses after transplanting. As a farmer, when you transplant and your young seedlings or your plants are experiencing transplant shock, it means that their survival rate is already somehow. So they will struggle for some time, even if they are going to stabilize. So that is seedling hardening. So transplanting. So transplanting is the process of moving seedling or plants from the nursery or initial germination site to the main field or the growing site. Now, steps in transplanting process. Transplant when seedlings are 4 to 6 weeks old. They should be at least 4 weeks old. In some cases too, it can be less than that, depending on what you are dealing with. It can be less than that. Maybe tomato, bell pepper and all that. Maybe in some cases we say transplant when you have seen true leaves. You don't need to wait for like 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. Once you have achieved your true leaves, the plant, you can see true leaves on the plant, they are fine. You may not have to wait for them to grow taller and all that. Then seedlings should have at least 4 to 6 true leaves. Very importantly, that is a sign that the seedlings are ready for transplant. Not just the first set of leaves, which are false leaves. The seedling should have true leaves. Then transplant during cool hours, preferably in the evening. Like I do tell farmers, there's a science behind the evening transplant. Now, this is it now. Why do you have to transplant in the evening? It is to facilitate the acclimatization or stabilization of the plant in the new growing site. Now, when you transplant in the evening, it is assumed that between the time of the transplant, which is around maybe 5 p.m. or 6 p.m., till when the sun will reach its highest point the next day, at least the seedling should have like a minimum of 11 hours in the new site to stabilize. So if you're able to do it that way, you won't have issues with acclimatization and the rest, so that the sun coming the next day will not get to trouble the seedlings too much. You say water the seedlings before transplanting. You have already exposed them, you have already hardened them, but on the day of transplant, ensure that you water the seedling. All these things are the steps that you need to take to help the seedling to acclimatize, because once you have transplanted, your main focus should be on achieving maximum stabilization. So what I mean by maximum stabilization, let's say for example you transplanted 100 seedlings, your goal should be to get at least 98% or 98 seedlings to stabilize. If you are going to even incur any loss, you must limit it to 5%. It should not be more than 5% because it's going to impact your yield if you are not able to minimize the losses. So water or irrigate the seedlings after transplanting. The next slide. So on the next slide, spacing and planting. Spacing and planting still in line with the transplanting. So why do you need to maintain proper spacing? It's a proper spacing gives fewer problems. So as a farmer, when transplanting, don't just get too greedy. Don't become too greedy that you want to force 20,000 stand of tomato in an acre, in an acre size of a land. No, no, don't get too greedy because an acre is estimated to take between 10,000 and 12,000 seedlings, depending on your spacing. But at least ensure that you give the plant proper spacing so that to avoid some issues that may arise from overcrowding your planting site. So for there, I said proper spacing gives fewer problems because problems will come. So when you're able to do your proper spacing, you will limit those problems that will arise later. We have a lot of problems that will arrive later. So let's go forward. So you must ensure proper spacing by maintaining an ideal plant density. So don't overcrowd, like I said earlier on, don't overpopulate. Maintain an ideal planting density. Don't overpopulate your site, please. Some farmers difference of plants out of greediness. They want to they want to overachieve, but no, no, it's not done that way. It may end up getting less. So don't overpopulate out of greed. So don't overpopulate your greenhouse or field. The second point on the list there, proper spacing ensures better growth. Now you are seeing one of the essence of proper spacing. It ensures better growth and yield because it limits competition amongst the plant. The competition could be for air, for aeration, airflow. It could be for space. They need to express themselves. So allow them to express themselves. So the third point on the list say to ensure adequate air circulation, that is aeration, because when the ventilation rate is low, you may start having issues with pests and some other diseases like foliar blight, leaf spot, stem stem fruit and root rots. These things are being caused by when your plant is not able to get and start having some diseases. You have issue with pests. Normally, you have issue with pests, especially during dry season. You have issues with pest pressure, and then you may also have issue with some disease like foliar blight, leaf spot, stem fruit, and root rot. Because when the plant is not able to get adequate airflow, rotting, fruit can start, and then the root as well. It means that the plant will just you suffocate the plant. They'll be looking for air, no air. So recommended spacing for tomato, you can do 4 centimeter by 50 centimeter for outdoor cultivation. Why do I say 45 centimeter by 50 centimeter? Is because there's already enough airflow outside. So you don't have to like you still need to like you don't have to like maybe you don't need to be too mindful of the spacing there. So 45 by 50 is fine. And then for indoor cultivation, you can maintain 60 centimeter between two plants in a row. You can maintain 60 centimeter by 45 centimeter for outdoor cultivation. I hope that is very clear. So this is in line with transplant. Then irrigation stroke fertigation. Tomatoes require regular watering but not too much watering. I hope that is clear. I hope that is clear. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Uh,
Uh,
so so after you have done the whole transplanting, gymnastic and everything, after everything you ensure you have transplanted, you have done everything well. Then we now come to irrigation slash fertigation. So here I said tomato requires regular watering but not too much watering. Tomato don't tolerate too much watering. That's why I say if you can go back to our soil preparation, I said you need to make use of a soil that allows proper drainage, soil that does not hold too much water more than necessary or more than required. So your tomato want you to water them regularly, especially when they start flowering and fruiting. Your tomato want much water. Your tomato want regular watering but not too much. Too much water can start disease will start coming and all that. Then then irrigate frequently. Sorry, irrigation frequency depends on soil type and weather condition. Irrigation frequency, so what it means that how often you should water or how often you should irrigate or fertigate depends on soil type and weather condition. So it therefore means that as a farmer that knows what you are doing, it's not just about watering. No. I know you have your watering routine, maybe like 4 times a day, microdosing. You are making use of your irrigations, drip irrigation, and so you are doing microdosing by maybe you are feeding 5 minutes and you have your watering or fertigating routine, but you don't just water, you don't just fertigate. So what this point means is that before you even open the water for them, observe: is the soil moist? Is it dry? What is the weather condition like? So on a day that the weather is calm or cool, you may not need to fertigate too much for that day because the plant may not be able to really process the water you are supplying to them. But the day the day the weather is hot or high, you need to supply them enough water that day. So irrigation frequency depends on soil type and weather conditions. So observation is needed here. Moisture to avoid waterlogging. So for you to even be able to achieve this, you need to also observe, maintain. So the essence of all these things is for you not to be the one to now bring problem into your tomato field, because like I told you, tomato requires water but not too much water, because when the water is becoming too much, your soil is too overly wet, problems can start arising, things like fungal issues, disease and the rest. Then you have the irrigation method. It's advisable to use drip irrigation. So drip irrigation should be used as overhead watering can be detrimental to your plant health. Tomato don't like, why do I say so? Because tomato don't like keeping water on the leaves. I hope that is clear. The reason why I need to adopt drip irrigation system is because tomato don't like keeping water on the leaf. So don't use overhead watering. So that's why you see tomato have a lot of issues during rainy season, because it's raining every now and then, and even before the water dries out on the leaf, another rain will still follow up. So that's why you see tomato have too much issues during rainy season. So please don't use overhead watering. Next slide.
Mr. Jude,
Yes, sir.
please, sir, can we do, because of the time that is remaining, can we do part two next week? Like, so that you can be able to cover a lot, because I can see that the slide is too much and many of us would not want you to rush the vital information.
Okay.
So maybe when it's like 8:50, you can just stop the class so that next week will continue.
Okay, no problem. Even though I try to summarize, still like the thing is still looking long. So you can see I was even trying to be fast.
Okay, sir.
I don't even like rushing things and all that. So you may miss some information.
Yes, we understand, sir.
Please,
We understand, sir.
staking and trellising. So now this is another important aspect in your production journey. Staking and trellising. So staking and trellising are essential structural support techniques that keep plants upright. They help you to keep your plant upright, preventing fruit rot. Because when the fruit has have contact with the soil or the ground, they can start rotting. Even though they don't rot, a lot of things can happen to them. And also reducing disease by stopping contact with the ground. So not just fruit rot, a lot of things can happen if you're unable to like properly stake or trellis your plant to keep them upright. So that upright, you are just simply showing them where to go. They should just be going up and not start crawling. So sometimes I see farmers they farm a large land area and other, and they're unable to stake. So if you watch, there a lot of them lose a lot of food to maybe fruit rot and some other issues like that. So you need to plan for staking. Please plan for staking and trellising, whether indoor or outdoor. If it's outdoor, you can just do your side staking. If it's indoor, you can do both trellising and your side staking. So why do I need to stake, or why do I need to trellis my plant? So there are a lot of reasons. Sorry, there are some typo errors there. If I was rushing this. There are a lot of reasons, not limited to improve air circulation. So why do I need to, especially indoor production? This is very important to improve air circulation, to increase yield. So these things have a way of impacting your plant. So it also saves space as well. And then it makes pruning easier where necessary. That is, if you are to prune, when you stake, it makes pruning, it will help you to see what part of the plant to cut or to trim away or to prune away. Then it reduces bacterial infections because they don't have contact with the ground, they are not just scattered anyhow. Also note that trellising should begin 3 weeks after transplant. Your trellising should begin 3 weeks after transplant. There are a lot of reasons for this, because you want to start giving them proper support early enough to show them where they should go, so that they don't start, and again, so that they don't start losing some branches and all that if you're unable to trellis sometimes. Because sometimes you will not enter, what do I call it now? Rescue mode. Where you are not able, maybe you planted and then you took your mind went off the trellising or staking. Before you know, the plants are started fruiting or started having too many stems or branches. Before you know, you're now in rescue mission, trying to like gather them so that I don't start losing a lot of stems and all that. So that is that. You need to start trellising, to begin your trellising 3 weeks after transplant. Next slide. So on this next slide, this is where I will be stopping for today. This is where I'll be stopping for today. Here we have integrated fertilizer and nutrient management. So you may be wondering why I have to include this. Is because you don't just have to, as a grower, try to maximize your profit, try to minimize the cost of input, or try to like get the best out of your plant, try to get your plant to give you the best. You don't just have to rely on inorganic fertilizers product and all that. You need to bring in, you need to adopt different approaches. So bring in both the organic and inorganic and use it to get the best out of your plant. So e say integrated fertilizer and nutrient management is a sustainable agricultural practices that optimizes crop productivity and maintains soil health by balancing the use of inorganic fertilizers and organic fertilizers. So apart from bringing the best out of your plant, you also use it to maintain your soil health, so that your soil don't just get depleted after a particular production. So it aim to maximize nutrient use efficiency, minimize environmental pollution, and sustain long-term fertility. Because inorganic fertilizer don't really enrich the soil, they just enrich that particular production, and that's all. You need to come again, and when you plant again, you need to. So but when you try to adopt different approaches like introducing both organic and inorganic, you are not just overusing the soil, you're also leaving something on the soil. Then adopting integrated fertilizer and nutrient management reduces dependency on synthetic fertilizer, enhances soil organic carbon, improves nutrient availability, and increases profitability by reducing your overall input cost. So let's look at nutrient requirements for tomato plants. Nutrient requirements, the time is already up, but let's look at nutrient requirements for tomato plant. Like I said, we are stopping here for tonight. So your tomato plant requires adequate nutrient supply. Your tomato plant requires adequate nutrient supply because they are going to feed, they are heavy feeders, they are going to feed a lot. So they require adequate nutrient supply. You are to supply the various essential nutrients to the plant at the appropriate concentration depending on the plant stage. So each stage comes with nutrient requirement. Each of the plant stage comes with their own nutrient requirement. See, different growth stage requires different nutrient regimens. But let's look at the vegetative stage finally tonight. Vegetative stage. He said the vegetative stage is the critical post-germination phase of plant growth focused on rapid development of roots, stems, and leaves to maximize photosynthesis. This is usually the first 1 to 3 weeks after transplant. So at this vegetative stage, your focus is on getting to achieve good root development, bulbous leaves, thick stem to support what is coming. So when you are unable to achieve thick stem at this stage, it may be difficult for the plant to carry load because load is coming from probably 5th to 6th week. Load is coming. So your focus between this first to third week after transplant should be on having good root development, then achieving thick stem, bulbous leaf for photosynthesis because that's what helps the plant really develop well. You say at this stage, the plant requires more of nitrogen and phosphorus for strong roots, stems, and leaves formation. So the plant requires nitrogen and phosphorus at this stage to develop strong roots, strong stems, and leaves. And also calcium for building strong cell wall. So why do you want to also achieve strong cell wall at this stage? To help the plant to withstand some things that will also come, to withstand some environmental issues, some disease, some pests, and that's why you need to have cell wall, just like human beings. When your immune system is very strong and very okay, you're able to withstand some disease and some illness and others. So the same, just like humans, your plant also need to have strong cell wall for them to be able to withstand some issues that will come later. You also need other essential elements like magnesium and all that. So that is that for tonight. So by next week, I hope we'll be able to have enough time to really look at this
So
topic.
let's appreciate Mr. Jude. Let's appreciate Mr. Jude. Let's appreciate him. Let's react. Let's react. Let's appreciate him. Let's appreciate him. Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful presentation. That I really appreciate you, sir. I really appreciate. I think we've done half of the presentation now, and upload by next week. So I don't know if you have anybody have questions. If we just maybe just take 1 or 2 questions before we go to that. I think we have still have like 6 minutes more before we end the class. So do we have questions? Maybe let me see if we have questions, or we should postpone it to next week. I don't know, bombarding with questions. I know a lot of us have questions. Bombarding with questions next week.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, concerning the spacing that you mentioned,
Okay.
so the indoor,
Mm.
I know that one is very necessary. You need to have more spacing. But where I am currently now, these people have been practicing this thing for like 5 years,
Mm.
like tomato farming. And the spacing they use is 30 centimeter apart, not double this thing on the ridge, just
Okay.
a straight line. So and the this thing is doing well because they will still prune it. So and I don't know, is it that is this thing you gave now 45 to 50 centimeter, is it the standard this thing, or we can still improvise and use other this thing, because in drip tape we don't have 45, or is it the interrow that is the 45 while the intrarow will be 50 centimeter apart?
So now what is there is that,
Hello.
hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
So what is there is that for you to achieve that, although it's not as if it's the standard though, what we're looking for is proper spacing. Do you get that? So
Yes.
the 45 centimeter I made mention of is not really far from 30 centimeter, is not far from it though. Since the person, you say the
Yes.
person is not doing double row. Do you get it?
Yes.
So that double row now is the one I gave you now is for double row.
Yes, sir.
So 45 between plants on a row. Then the second row, the spacing between this plant and this one on the other row should be like that 50. You get that? But
Yes,
remember that,
they
oh,
maintain that already.
huh?
That one is maintained already. Is more than 50 safe.
Okay.
It's even more than
Okay.
50.
Okay, that's
Yes.
fine. That's fine. That's fine. So for the drip tape, depend on the drip tape you also make use of as well. So I think, which farm was I then now? When we are using 25 centimeter this thing there. So it depends on the drip tape that is available, that is at your disposal. That will determine how you go about. I know majorly in most cases you have 30 centimeter drip tape in most cases. Some farmers even intentionally buy it to be able to maximize space. They get that's why most farmers go for
Yes.
30 centimeter. So because where you have 50 or the likes and co, you may not really be able to maximize space, but most farmers go for that 30 so that they won't be able to jump anyone.
Thank I know our time is fast spent, so we have just 2 minutes to end the call. We really appreciate everyone for joining this night. Thank you so much, Mr. Jude. We really appreciate you, sir. Appreciate every participant
You're
on it.
welcome.
Thank you for this one. So we have part two next week. Just note we have part two, and I know that part two is going to, I'm going to bombard him with a lot of questions because me too, I have questions. So, so thank you so much for tonight call. Thank you so much, everyone. And you can follow our page SAKT. We have our WhatsApp page, so you can follow us, and on our social media too. You can follow us too. So thank you so much for tonight. So we see you next week. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, that's fine.